Emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions while navigating the emotions of others has become one of the most crucial skills in modern society. Yet millions of people struggle with it daily, often without realizing the impact on their relationships, careers, and overall well-being. Today we're exploring 10 common habits that consistently reveal low emotional intelligence. Understanding these patterns isn't about judgment, it's about awareness and growth. Let's dive right in. 10. Inability to read social cues. Picture this. Someone continues talking while their listener is clearly checking their phone, looking away, or giving one-word responses. This inability to read social cues is one of the most fundamental signs of low emotional intelligence. People with this habit often dominate conversations without noticing discomfort, boredom, or disinterest in others. They miss the subtle signals humans communicate through body language, tone, and facial expressions. The unspoken language that makes up over 90% of our communication. In professional settings, this can manifest as someone who pitches ideas long after the room has mentally moved on, or who fails to notice when a joke has landed poorly. The result? Strained relationships and missed opportunities for genuine connection. 9. Difficulty accepting criticism. When faced with feedback, do you immediately defend yourself, make excuses, or counterattack? This defensive response reveals an inability to separate criticism of your actions from criticism of your identity. People with high emotional intelligence understand that feedback is information, not an attack. They can sit with discomfort, reflect objectively, and extract value even from poorly delivered criticism. Those with low emotional intelligence, however, treat any critique as a personal assault. A manager's suggestion to improve a report becomes an indictment of their competence. A partner's request for more communication becomes an accusation of failure. This defensive stance prevents growth and damages relationships over time. The physiological response is real. Criticism triggers the same threat response as physical danger. But emotional intelligence means developing the capacity to override that initial reaction and engage thoughtfully. 8. Poor impulse control. Impulse control is the ability to pause between feeling and action, a cornerstone of emotional intelligence that many struggle with. This manifests in countless ways. Sending angry emails you later regret, making major purchases during emotional highs, interrupting others mid-sentence, or saying hurtful things during arguments that can't be unsaid. Research from the famous marshmallow test demonstrated that children who could delay gratification showed better life outcomes decades later. The same principle applies to adults. Those with poor impulse control are often controlled by their emotions rather than informed by them. The modern digital world has made this worse. Social media encourages immediate reactions, the angry comment, the impulsive post, the screenshot and share. Each instance reinforces the neural pathway of reaction over reflection. 7. Blame shifting and lack of accountability. "It's not my fault" becomes a reflexive mantra for those with low emotional intelligence. When things go wrong, they immediately externalize responsibility. The project failed because the team didn't understand. The relationship ended because the other person was too demanding. The job was lost because the boss had favorites. Always, the locus of control sits outside themselves. This habit reveals an inability to tolerate the discomfort of being wrong or making mistakes. High emotional intelligence includes the capacity for self-reflection and honest self-assessment, even when it's painful. It means asking, "What was my contribution to this outcome?" rather than, "Who can I blame?" The irony is that blame shifting actually removes your power. If nothing is ever your fault, then you have no ability to change outcomes. Accountability, while uncomfortable, is empowering. 6. Emotional hijacking. Emotional hijacking occurs when intense emotions completely overwhelm rational thought. One moment you're having a disagreement, the next you're screaming, slamming doors, or shutting down entirely. Neuroscientist Daniel Goleman describes this as the amygdala hijack, when the brain's emotional center overrides the prefrontal cortex responsible for reasoning and decision-making. Everyone experiences this occasionally, but those with low emotional intelligence are frequently held hostage by their emotions. The consequences can be severe. Careers destroyed by outbursts in meetings, relationships damaged by disproportionate reactions to minor issues, opportunities lost because anxiety or anger took the wheel. Recovery is slow, too. While the emotional hijacking might last minutes, the physiological response, elevated cortisol, increased heart rate, racing thoughts, can persist for hours, making it difficult to return to baseline and think clearly. 5. Inability to identify and name emotions. Ask someone with low emotional intelligence how they're feeling, and you'll often hear fine, good, or bad. Their emotional vocabulary is strikingly limited. This condition, called alexithymia in its extreme form, means struggling to identify and describe your own emotional states. Without this fundamental skill, emotional regulation becomes nearly impossible. You can't manage what you can't name. Research shows that simply labeling emotions, "I'm feeling anxious about this presentation," versus "I feel bad," reduces the intensity of negative feelings. It's called affect labeling, and it engages the brain's language centers, which dampens the amygdala's alarm response. People with limited emotional vocabulary often express everything through anger because it's the most familiar and socially acceptable emotion for many. Underneath might be hurt, disappointment, fear, or shame, but these remain unidentified and unprocessed. 4. Conversational narcissism. This pattern reveals itself quickly in conversation. Someone shares an experience, and instead of responding with curiosity or support, the person with low emotional intelligence immediately redirects to themselves. "I just got back from an amazing trip to Japan." "Oh, I went to Tokyo 3 years ago. Let me tell you about my trip." This isn't just poor manners, it's an inability to hold space for others' experiences. Every conversation becomes an opportunity for self-focus rather than connection. Sociologist Charles Derber identified 2 response types: the support response, which encourages the other person to elaborate, and the shift response, which redirects attention to yourself. Those with low emotional intelligence overwhelmingly default to shift responses. The underlying issue is often insecurity. Paradoxically, the constant need to talk about yourself comes from low self-awareness and a fragile sense of identity that requires constant reinforcement through external validation. 3. All or nothing thinking. "You always do this." "You never listen to me." "Everyone thinks I'm a failure." This cognitive distortion, where everything exists in extremes with no middle ground, is a hallmark of low emotional intelligence. One disagreement means the entire relationship is terrible. One mistake at work means you're completely incompetent. One rejection means you're fundamentally unlovable. Psychologists call this splitting, or black and white thinking. It's particularly common in moments of emotional intensity when the brain seeks simplicity and certainty. The problem is that life rarely operates in absolutes. Most situations, people, and outcomes exist in shades of gray. All or nothing thinking prevents nuanced understanding and appropriate responses. It escalates conflicts, amplifies distress, and makes problem-solving nearly impossible. High emotional intelligence includes the ability to hold complexity, to recognize that someone can be both caring and occasionally thoughtless, that a project can be partially successful, that you can feel 2 contradictory emotions simultaneously. 2. Lack of empathy. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, is perhaps the most critical component of emotional intelligence. Its absence creates profound disconnection. Low empathy manifests as dismissiveness of others' feelings. "You're overreacting." "It's not that big a deal." "Just get over it." These responses reveal an inability to step outside one's own perspective and truly consider another person's emotional experience. It's important to distinguish between cognitive empathy, understanding intellectually how someone feels, and emotional empathy, actually feeling with them. Some people with low emotional intelligence possess the former but not the latter. They can identify emotions in others but remain unmoved by them. The consequences ripple through every relationship. Without empathy, conflicts become win-lose battles rather than opportunities for mutual understanding. Parenting becomes authoritarian rather than nurturing. Leadership becomes transactional rather than inspirational. 1. Resistance to emotional expression. The final habit is treating emotions as weakness or inconvenience, something to be suppressed, ignored, or powered through rather than acknowledged and processed. Stop being so emotional. Feelings don't matter, only facts. I don't do drama. This emotional avoidance stems from deep discomfort with vulnerability. People with low emotional intelligence often learned early that expressing feelings led to dismissal, punishment, or abandonment, so they built walls. The problem is that suppressed emotions don't disappear, they accumulate. Like a pressure cooker without a release valve, they eventually explode in disproportionate reactions, or they turn inward, manifesting as anxiety, depression, or physical health problems. High emotional intelligence doesn't mean being controlled by emotions or expressing them inappropriately. It means acknowledging their existence, understanding their message, and choosing how to respond. Emotions are data, information about our needs, values, and boundaries. Ignoring them is like ignoring the check engine light in your car. In simple terms, emotional intelligence isn't fixed. It's a skill set that can be developed at any age. Recognizing these 10 habits in yourself isn't cause for shame. It's the first step toward growth. The good news? Neuroplasticity means our brains can form new patterns throughout life. Through therapy, mindfulness practices, reading, honest self-reflection, and deliberate practice in relationships, emotional intelligence can be cultivated. Start small. Notice when you're about to interrupt someone. And don't. Simply pause before responding to criticism to consider if there's truth in it. Practice naming your emotions with specificity, and remember to ask questions in conversations instead of immediately sharing your own story. Each small shift in awareness creates ripples of change. Your relationships deepen, your decision-making improves, your stress decreases, and you become someone others trust and want to be around. The journey from low to high emotional intelligence is one of the most valuable investments you can make in yourself and the quality of your life. Subscribe today to ensure you don't miss what's coming next.